Good afternoon, Craig.
Well, good afternoon, Ross, and good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good wherever you are. Welcome to Tater and Shrimp on the Barbie, where we talk about CRM and revenue growth tips. So, my name is Craig Jamieson. I'm coming to you from Boise, Idaho, which makes me the Tater on the Barbie, and my co-host is Mr. Ross Keating from Queensland, Australia. He'd like to be a prawn, but we call him a shrimp because, well, that's the way that the colloquial saying goes. So, Ross, why don't you say hello to the folks? Introduce yourself.
Hi, folks. Thanks very much for joining us. And if you're watching this live, please put your comments in the chat box. If you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, we'd love you to ask any questions or put your feedback or comments in there. Please do the same, put comments in there. We do monitor the shows afterwards. So if you're watching this post-recording or post-going live on LinkedIn and Facebook, please leave a comment there. We'll get back to you, and you'll see on the banner just down below there, you'll see it will change with connections to book a time with Craig or myself, so you can have a 30-minute complimentary chat with us about what you're looking to opportunities to take advantage of and which ones, any challenges you want to overcome. Craig, back to you, mate.
Great. Well, once again, my name's Craig Jamieson. My background is B2B sales management. So I'm particularly excited today because we're going to be talking a little bit about increasing your sales. And we're going to talk about how to do it with a CRM. The greater topic that we're going to explore here is why you might want or you might not want a CRM. I mean, a CRM isn't for everybody. I personally can't imagine that, but I mean, there are people that just flat out don't need one. So we'll talk about that first, and then we'll go in, talk about, really, I think some of the goals as a salesperson, some of the things that you need to be able to do, and we'll talk about how a CRM can help you to do that. So, Ross, why don't you start us off and tell us why people might not want a CRM?
Well, I have come across people where it's not suitable, or it wouldn't work for them in their position. And one of the most common ones is they'd like to have that database, but really they don't have enough numbers. They maybe have 100 to 200 max people in their database, and they don't want to, and they don't include people in their networks and business connections. They're talking about their database of prospects and customers, maybe 50 to 100 to 150. That's one reason why you might not do it, but there's a guy, Robin Dunbar, who is an anthropologist, and he wrote way back and found that the human can only manage 150 relationships at a time before they start forgetting all that detail. And when we're in business, we have to have a lot more detail about our relationships. And that's what we hear most often is, I'm losing sales. I'm not doing the follow-ups, or my team's not doing the follow-ups because they've got too much information to try and retain up in their head. You could be using a spreadsheet. A lot of people do use spreadsheets, and that works, but they become very big. They become ginormous to go through, and often they can't be shared. At least these days, you can share spreadsheets through Teams and links and Google Docs, but they become unwieldy, and they still don't have the information quickly and easy that you can find and the team want to find. And if you've got more than two of you, it becomes really difficult to maintain. Outlook works fine. I used to use Outlook when I first started business 15 plus years ago, and I knew, because I used to sell CRMs, that eventually I would need one. And once I got up to 1,000 people, Outlook just didn't do all the things that I wanted. Then I don't have enough sales to warrant the monthly annual fee. That's a very small one, because you can get free CRMs. You can get, really cost affordable value for money CRMs, and you can pay top dollar for the big ones if you've got industrial strength. But there's really no money should be no reason if you're not investing in that, because they will tell you why it does work for you shortly. And the other one, can't have data go offshore. And so when we're saying the CRM doesn't work, a lot of CRMs are online and you're unsure of where they do go. And I know here in Australia, there are some regulations regarding health data must be kept onshore here in Australia. So that may be servers and things like that. But for the generally small businesses are not affected like that. Everything is in the cloud, wherever that may be. So those are the reasons why you might not want a CRM. But other than that, I can't think of other reasons. And if you've got one, folks, please put it in the comment box below.
Why those are all bad reasons anyway. Don't mind me. Hey, I started off with a shoe box. I still like shoe boxes. But you're right, the dollar barrier is completely gone. I mean, there's great CRMs that you can get out there for nothing. But regardless of what you end up with, I mean, you have to look at, like everything else. I get frustrated. Now you're going to get me on my soapbox here, like with networking and all this type of thing. Everybody's like, well, I don't want to I don't want to spend the money. I don't need the expense, whatever. Well, if you look at these things, whether it's a CRM or, some other activity to increase your sales, you're looking at a return from it. It's an investment. You're looking for a return on your investment. And I think that's what you will get from a CRM. But, let's talk generalities here in terms of, I think, if we're talking about sales, if your goal is to increase your revenues, right, which is, what every business wants to do, for my mind, there's three sources where you're going to get your increased revenues from. You're going to get it from your existing customers. And if you're not getting that repeat business from your existing customers and you're, in fact, losing customers, that's a problem. Okay. You're going to get referrals. And those referrals, once again, a lot of those referrals are going to be coming from your existing customers, which is another reason, even if they're not necessarily continuing to buy from you, they're still an excellent referral source. So you've got existing customers, referrals, and you've got new customers. Okay. Now, the next thing you want to do, for me, it's never to the numbers. I'm one of those people that looks and says, well, I've got to do more of this. I got to do more of this. The problem with doing more of this is that you've only got so many hours during the day. So there's a finite where it's going to have to go. So, I'm a quality person versus a quantity person. I'm looking at increasing ratios, increasing the potential for closing business off of every interaction that I have with a customer. The bottom line is that in order for you to maximize your revenue opportunities, every customer interaction is going to end up with one of three results. Either you did not meet their expectations, in which case you're done. You're never coming back. You met their expectations. To me, that's a neutral experience. And I tell people, well, you may have been lucky enough to close a sale, but you don't have a customer. You're going to be competing for that sale again down the road, or you can exceed their expectations. And if you exceed their expectations, that's where you get the repeat business, the referrals, the avenues into new customers. So the only acceptable outcome to me is exceeding expectations. And in order to do that, I tell people you have to be rum. Okay. You have to be remarkable, you have to be unique, and you have to be memorable. That's the only way that you can do that. And you have an opportunity. And I'll tell you what, it's pretty easy today. I mean, I tell people this all the time. I mean, I might be a salesperson, but, to other salespeople, I look a lot like barbecue. So I get salespeople calling me all the time wanting to sell me something. Let me tell you, I mean, it's abysmal. It's terrible. You can't get them to personalize anything. You can't get them to call you back. You can't get them to keep their commitments to you. Nothing. So the opportunity to exceed expectations is certainly there. I mean, the bar has been set so low. I mean, you don't even have to jump over it. I mean, it's buried. You just walk over
That's
it.
right.
Okay? It's that bad. So, Ross, what are ways a CRM can help you be rum? Remarkable, unique, memorable, exceed expectations. What are some of the ways we can do that?
Well, do I need to give it a list, really?
Yeah, you do.
Well, thanks. Hey, just to reinforce on that about exceeding expectations, I was listening to Shep Hyken recently, a customer service guru, one of the lead people in customer experience, and he was saying that to be really successful, a business only has to be consistently slightly above average, consistently to outperform a business that is inconsistently above average, high. So be consistently slightly above average, and if you do it well, then you're on a winner because you'll outperform anybody that does really top end stuff, but they do it badly. And that's where CRM can help. And it really is, as Craig said, the numbers. And I have a saying, there's only 5 reasons why people will employ me and why they do anything in business. It's to increase sales. It's to reduce expenses. It's to get more bang for your marketing buck, which you've discussed a bit there. Productivity and efficiency for the business owners and for the employees. And ultimately, they want to increase profitability because the first 4 will lead to better profits. And that is where a CRM can really, really make a difference. If you have a look at the bang for your marketing buck, you've got 1,000 people or 10,000 people in your database. How are you going to get better bang for your marketing buck? Well, it's about getting groups of them, finding ways to segment the database down into different groups that enable you to write a better marketing communication, to keep in touch with them, for your posts, for any sales activities and promotions that you've got going on. If you can send it to a segment of the database and identify it for them, you can make it more interesting. So they say, so they will respond. So you've got the cost of a lead. You're going to reduce the cost of a lead if you get more people from the existing database to do that. And even with your normal marketing, if you understand your buyer personas, you're going to have that cost per lead go down the more people that respond. And so that's where CRM is really, really good. I've got different segmentation. I've got 5,000 leads or contacts in my database. And I can narrow it down to a group of 17 people who are in HR within 15 kilometers of me. And I can send them a personalized email. Now, that is one of the key reasons why you might do that. We talk about efficiency. If you've got a sales team, and they're going away, you've got somebody going on leave and they're on maybe over in the eastern US, or they're in Melbourne and I'm up here on the Gold Coast of Queensland. Then if you've got a CRM, you can get somebody else to cover that territory and update the CRM and look at the CRM to see what the person who's going on leave has been doing, so that they can start the communication like there's no interruption. And I had a sales team and they didn't want to do that. And I showed them, that was one of my selling points to them. If you do this, we can go and leave. Wouldn't it be a really good idea if you knew what Sue said to your clients while you're away? Wouldn't it be really great if you could put in the database on that sales call so that Wayne could go and actually do that activity and follow that while you're away on leave? And then that works so well, and they really use that part of it. So that's one of the things that I find. Efficiency. The other part is the marketing buck and the net profitability. Your marketing is going to be there. The sales team's more efficient. They're going to close more leads. And you talk about that, Craig. The sales. There's only certain things you can do. And the other part when you're talking about sources of revenue, one thing I talk about are, and within the existing customer database, there's three types of clients. There is the current customer, there is the past customer, and there's those who buy from you regularly who are at risk of leaving because they're buying outside their buy cycle. And if you can identify those, you need to talk to those people differently. So, Craig, that's wild work for you if you want to have a CRM. There's those particular things.
Okay. And I think as an individual salesperson, there's just a lot of reasons too. Those are all great reasons. From looking from the company standpoint and from the team standpoint. Me as a salesperson here, I want to be organized. I'm tired of having a file folder that's full of scrap papers. That bits and pieces of this and that and the other thing, and half the time it doesn't have the information I need anyway. And certainly, the other thing is that, unless you want to take your 4-drawer file cabinet with you every place you go, you can't take it with you, which of course with a CRM, mobile application or your laptop or your tablet, whatever, it travels with you everywhere. So, all that information there, but it's just, and managing those multiple relationships. I can't remember the name of the individual that you were talking about, Ross, but you said that, the average human can manage 150 relationships. Well, I could tell you the average 70-year-old can't. Right? My guess is the average 67-year-old can't either. So now I've outed Ross here. I got that out of him before the meeting here. He likes to make me feel bad for being old now. He's not that far behind me. But it's tough. It's tough to remember what you promised everybody, the commitments that you made, and what's important to this individual and little bits and pieces of personal information about this person. You can't do it. You can't do it. You're probably dealing with more than 150 people anyway. So once again, a centralized database of CRM gives you all that information, and you can remember what you talked about last. That's one of the best things. Is that you go in there before you make your next phone call, you look at your notes and you say, okay, the last time we talked about was this. And you get on the phone, you say, last time we talked about blah, 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 blah. And the guy's like, really? You remember that? Unbelievable. You must have a photographic memory. No, I have a CRM, right? And I take good notes, right? And I use my tasks, to remind me that I said that I promised somebody I was going to be back to them in 2 weeks, right? So it reminds me to be back to them in 2 weeks. These are all the really, really important things that separate you from other salespeople. That remarkable, that unique, that memorable, allowing you to exceed expectations. The only thing that meets my expectations is canned corn. When I go to the supermarket, I buy the cheapest canned corn I can probably find because that always meets my expectations. But that's the only thing that I really don't care about. Otherwise, I'm looking to exceed those expectations. But the number of opportunities that you'll have in any lifetime are finite. The key is that you want to maximize those opportunities when they come around, and you don't want to miss opportunities when they present themselves. And it's really tough to do that, I think, without having some sort of a centralized CRM database. And I'm talking about your pipeline, your forecast, all of that. Salespeople, unfortunately, especially if you're a commission salesperson, you're familiar with the roller coaster, which is your commission check, and that's usually a fundamental of not prospecting, not really managing your pipeline, not knowing what you have in your pipeline, all those types of things. We seek to eliminate or to at least minimize those types of things. But, once again, ultimately, it's continually building those relationships with your customers, with your prospective customers. That's going to lead to, once again, that repeat business and that referral business. Believe me, repeat business, referral business, your closing ratios are substantially higher than any new business that you will go out and prospect. And I'm all about higher ratios. So that's what I stand for. So that's all I've got for today. Ross, do you have anything to add before we close this out?
No, just one thing is there is just pre-COVID, that I read an article about Domino's Pizza. Now, that's one of the worldwide chain of pizzas that was actually founded here in Australia. just thought I'd just drop that part of it in. But they actually introduced Salesforce to their organization, and the case study showed that they came out, their efficiency increased by 20%. So if you can increase your efficiency, it shows efficiency for an organization, and they were using Salesforce. Now, I know that's an industrial strength, what I call industrial strength CRM, but you can gain those efficiencies, and if you take Craig's thing, I say that a prospect becomes a customer, but a customer is always a prospect. And it's only a CRM. It's only by building trust and understanding and what they do will they become a lifetime customer. And then you can give that experience, and the CRM can give you an amazing experience. I had one guy that used to work for me, and we had the organization had an 18 months to 2 year sales cycle. And he called the guy up one day and he said, "No, can't take the call right now. We're doing a big concrete pour on a big project." And he called him back 3 months later. He said, "How did the concrete pour go? You remember that? Oh, wow." And he went on, and he thought John was a fantastic guy. And we eventually got the business. But that's why the CRM. So that's why they work for businesses, folks. And Craig and I would love you to talk to us. You've the bottom of the screen on the ticker tape, our information.
Just leave a comment on LinkedIn or Facebook, and we'll get back to you or follow up. And thank you so much for sitting in today. And Ross, another one in the bucket. So
hey, I think it's
you can wake up. It's only like 6:30 in the morning in Australia. So Ross hasn't even had his oatmeal yet. So no, I'll get his opportunity. So.
Okay, folks.
People like oatmeal, in case you were wondering. So.
Yeah. Sweet corn and oatmeal.
Bye now.
Bye now.